What's up, MASL Nation? It's the FC Fanatic, Matt Huber, with episode 3 of In the Box. Thanks for the support on the first 2 episodes. Today I'm going to be doing 5 more teams, kind of taking a look at the schedules and letting you know where their tough runs are going to be, their easy runs are going to be, and a game to watch. Tomorrow's episode is going to be a normal episode. Some of the topics I'm going to talk about, I'm definitely going to talk about Mississauga and what's going on there. And then there's a few other ideas kicking around, no pun intended. Playoff format. Do we like single point scoring or do we like multi-point scoring? Yes, I'm going to talk about that. And a few other items on the docket. So without further ado, 5 topics, 2 minutes each, and let's get going. We're going to start with the Milwaukee Wave. They're the champs. So their schedule, looking at it, looks fairly easy in my opinion. There's an easy stretch at the end of the year. Actually, at end of January. The end of the year one also looks pretty easy as well, but the ones I highlighted were at the end of January, beginning of February. There's home games. There's 3 home games against Mississauga, Harrisburg, and Rochester. If you don't go 3-0 there, I don't know what to tell you. It looks like they've got 5 or 6 games in a row, so that's a nice little home stretch, home stand, if you will. The game to watch for me is their trip out to Ontario to face the Fury. Fury have Frank Taiu, Uzi Taiu, Justin Stinson from St. Louis, Jermaine Jones. So that's going to be an up and down shootout in my opinion. Not going to tell you who's going to win that one. You'll have to listen to Merlin's picks for the winner of that one. A tough stretch of games is actually at the end of the year for Milwaukee. They face Baltimore at home on the 15th of March, and then 6 days later, they embark on their final 2 games on the road, Utica and Harrisburg. And the reason why I put Harrisburg in there, it's the second game on a back-to-back, and Milwaukee did lose to Harrisburg at the end of last season as well. Could happen again, especially if they play Utica the night before with playoff implications. But who knows what's going to happen. Next up, we've got St. Louis Ambush, Everton, and Crew. The schedule for you, there's a tough stretch at the end of January going into February. I have a 4-game stretch. Normally I do 3, but this one's a 4-game stretch. You've got back-to-back games in consecutive weeks. You've got Orlando and Florida away in Florida. And then you've got Utica City and Rochester away. So there's a 4-game road trip right there. You might win the one in Rochester, but we'll see how that goes. The next week starts your 3-game easy stretch. You've got Harrisburg at home, and then you've got 2 against Mississauga on the road at the Progressive Auto Sales Arena somewhere in Ontario. Not exactly sure where. My game to watch is another one against the Ontario Fury on the 21st. There's not a lot of East-West games for St. Louis. They play Tacoma at home, and they play Mesquite at home as well. So, oh, actually, the Ontario game is at home in St. Louis. So, forget I even said that. They're not even traveling out west. So there you have it for St. Louis. Looking it over, there's a lot of games against the the former South Central Division, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and yeah, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and the Florida and Orlando. So not a lot of going out west. Okay. Next is Kansas City, the Kansas City Comets. Your rough stretch, in my opinion, is at the end of December, beginning of January. You've got 2 home games and an away game. You've got Tacoma at home. You've got St. Louis away, and you've got Milwaukee at home. So it looks like a fairly easy schedule. If those are your 3 tough games, that's good. Your 3 easy ones actually come at the end of January, beginning of February, where you have Orlando and you've got Harrisburg and Orlando at home. Not to say that Orlando's a bad team this year. I just don't see them being as good as they were last year, especially with Gordy gone. And Reiner House as well. I actually put in another 2-game stretch. It's just a back-to-back Friday, Sunday. Both home games against Milwaukee and Ontario. I just kind of threw that in there. That's another rough stretch. And then you play on March 1st in St. Louis, but you have an 8-day rest. So that's pretty good. I'm looking forward to a game to watch for Kansas City is March 8th on the blue turf of Utica. It's going to be Kansas City versus Utica City. James Togba playing his old team, and they're playing on another turf that is blue. So they should be used to that. Battle of the blue turf. So there you go for Kansas City. So the next one is the Orlando Seawolves. We'll start with the game to watch. Now, last year, Baltimore traveled to Orlando, and Orlando gave them one heck of a game. I think it was like 4-3, 4-2, really, really low scoring. And that's normal for Baltimore standards. So Sunday, December 22nd in Orlando, there's the rematch. Orlando is going to CQ Arena later on in the year. And that is actually part of the rough stretch of Orlando. It's in February, and it looks like they're doing not 1 but 2 trips to Baltimore to CQ Arena to face the Blast, and sandwiched in between there is an away game against Kansas City. So there's a tough 3-game stretch, especially when you're not used to playing a small field. Kind of throws your game off a little bit. But these should be interesting games in Baltimore. The final 4 games for Orlando are relatively easy. They're all home games. So it's a 4-game homestand to finish off the year. And you've got, looks like you've got Turlock, you've got Rochester, and you've got Kansas City in Florida. So it's a 4-game home stretch. Home cooking always helps. I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be in the playoff mix at this point, but looking over the rest of the schedule, I find that this part is easier than the rest of the schedule. So, last but certainly not least, the Florida Tropics. The Tropics have changed drastically, and they've changed again. Robert Acosta going from St. Louis to Florida. So, a whole new team. Your schedule, unfortunately, doesn't come to Utica City. I'm very, very disappointed in that. So, I guess I'm going to have to travel to Rochester on March 6th to watch the return of Joey Tavernisi. Antonio Manfoot's going to be there. He played outdoor for Rochester a couple years ago. Got to see Ricardo Carvalho from Harrisburg. All these guys I've known and watched, and it'll be good to see him March 6th in Rochester. So that's my game to watch. So for the tough stretch is going to be at the end of January, beginning of February. they're doing pretty much the same thing Utica City's doing. They're traveling to Texas. They're going to face Dallas, Mesquite, and then the week after, they're going to be playing a home game against the San Diego Sockers. So that's a nice little 3-game stretch where you could easily lose 1 or 2 of those games. Do I see it happening? Maybe. Depends on how well this team gels together. It's in the middle of the season, so it should be okay. Towards the end of the season, after the Rochester game, there is a nice little stretch where they face St. Louis, Kansas City at home, and then on the road in Orlando. So I would imagine that those 3 games, it'll be 3-0, and probably clinching the playoffs somewhere in there. So there you have it, MASL Nation. 5 topics, 2 minutes each. This is an 11-minute video. So I want to thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Tomorrow's episode is going to be great. And there's going to be some big news coming within the next few days. So follow me on MASL Off the Wall. You can also follow me on Twitter at FC_fanatic for more details and possibly pictures as well. So we'll talk to you soon. And what say you, MASL Nation?